Hey cousins, happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of Respectfully. And today I really just want to expand on the conversation that we had yesterday. Now, if you guys haven't seen yet, I'm assuming by now you've all seen the tragic murder of Iryna Zaruska, the Ukrainian refugee, gorgeous 23-year-old girl that was senselessly and ruthlessly murdered by having her throat slit on a train full of people. And now, of course, the internet is upside down. Everybody's trying to come up with different theories about what it is that we need to do as a solution. A lot of people are trying to make this about race. I don't think this is about race. I don't think that this incident is about race. What this is about is cracking down on crime. And I have said it before, and I will say it again. Mass incarceration saves lives. We're going to be getting into all of that, explaining why. I also believe that if you are pro-black, if you're someone that thinks that mass incarceration is racist, then you're not a serious person. Mass incarceration, if it helps anybody the most in this country, it helps black people. And there's so many reasons why. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, send in your super chats and live chat, and we will have a discussion after this episode. And welcome to Respectfully. So you guys, I'm a bit shaken up. I'll be honest. I'm actually very shaken up. I wasn't going to watch the full video of what happened to Iryna Zaruska, but it finally did release today. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I have to. Sometimes you have to look evil in the eye directly to understand what it is that we're talking about. And again, it leans back into the fact that this is a combination of mental illness. This is a combination of a lot of people are saying racism. Now, if you watch the full clip, you can hear that he's saying something as he walks away. A lot of people believe that he says, "I got that white girl." That's what DeCarlos Brown, the 34-year-old schizo that murdered this woman. I can't really tell if that's what she's saying or not, or what he is saying or not. So I'm not going to ride with that train yet. But what I will say is that regardless of what his motive is, this is unbelievably, unfathomably disgusting and evil. Now, this is an image, a screen grab that really summarizes the entire incident. You see her, and this is after he stabbed her. He is in shock. She looks up in absolute fear. I don't think I will ever be able to get that image of the pure fear, the fetal position, everything. Like everything about this is like burned into my brain now, of her looking at this man just thinking, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do this to an innocent, young, beautiful girl that did nothing to you, doesn't even know who you are? And shortly after that, she realizes what's happening, and she spends the rest of her life crying alone, falls onto the ground and blacks out, and then she bleeds out on the floor of a train. I don't know what, like, that is one of the worst ways that you possibly can die. Like, that is such a sad, horrible thing, and it shows the reality that, again, as I said yesterday, this Ukrainian refugee was safer in a literal war zone than she is in a major city in the United States of America, and that is a problem. And what I want to emphasize is that this is not a singular incident. The reason that this is getting so much attention, the reason that what happened to Iryna Zaruska is getting so much attention is only because, or not only, but for a major reason, it's because it's on video. Okay. And why I'm saying that is obviously not to deflect how much we should be outraged. We all should be outraged. I don't think that it's getting enough attention. I don't think enough mainstream outlets are talking about this yet. But what it comes down to is, for lack of a better word, fortunately, we have this on camera so we can prove that evil exists. Because what happened to Laken Riley? That wasn't documented enough. Don't forget about what happened to Laken Riley. Another incident where you had a repeat offender, might not have been a 14-time repeat offender like DeCarlos Brown, but you had an illegal immigrant who had already been arrested before, who already should have been deported, just based on basic U.S. laws and common sense, who spent 18 minutes running after this girl, fighting, trying to SA her, trying to grape her. She fought for her life, and then he murdered her. Mass incarceration and mass deportation would have handled that. Then I just learned today, because I posted about just Iryna again, because I can't get this situation out of my head. And I just learned the story of Dacara Thompson. I had not even heard of Dacara Thompson. I'm curious. Let me know in the chat. Have you heard of what happened to Dacara Thompson not long ago? Another beautiful, young, woman whose life was taken from her. So Dacara was a 19-year-old girl from Maryland who went missing on August 22nd of this year after leaving her father's home to get gas. Surveillance footage showed her entering a black SUV driven by 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez around 3 a.m. on August 23rd in Hyattsville. She was driven to his home in Bowie, I believe is how you say it, or Bowie, where police believe that she was murdered in his bedroom, and the evidence included suspected blood on the mattress and signs of struggle. Now, her body was discovered on August 31st in a grassy area off of Route 50 in Anne Arundel County and allegedly discarded from a bridge into the South River. Hernandez Mendez, an undocumented immigrant from Guatemala, was just arrested on September 5th and charged with first and second degree murder, and he was denied bond on September 8th. Now, mind you, not only is this an illegal immigrant, which again, like I said, mass deportation, just like mass incarceration, would solve so much of this issue, but this is a man that was already arrested. This is a man that was already arrested with a DUI. If you're an illegal immigrant here and you're getting DUIs, you're drunk driving, putting people's lives at risk, you are already a repeat criminal. You were a criminal when you entered our country illegally, let alone when you stayed here and then however you say that, when you went drunk driving. And then you go and you kill this beautiful, innocent woman who had nothing to do with you. This gorgeous 19-year-old girl, Dacara Thompson. Bring her picture up again, please. Her life was stolen from her. When you look at this beautiful woman, when you look at her, when you look at Iryna, when you look at all these, when you look at Laken Riley, these are beautiful young women whose lives were stolen from them because of illegal immigrants and because of repeat criminals. Mass deportation and mass incarceration are the two things that our country needs. And again, if you think that talking about mass incarceration makes you racist, then that inherently makes you a racist. If you just assume it's going to be all black people getting arrested, however, it's going to be a lot of them. Now, that being said, I just want to really run y'all down some stats when it comes to this, because here's the serious thing about mass incarceration. Part of why I'm pro mass incarceration is because you realize a lot of these people are repeat offenders. We've talked about before on the show how a lot of people tend to be like, oh, a sign of systemic racism is the fact that a black person and a white person will both do the same crime and one stays in prison longer or in jail longer. The reason for that is they are not factoring in whether or not they are repeat offenders. And a lot of these people, especially if they're murderers, tend to be repeat offenders. Someone to do what Carlos Brown did to Iryna Zaruska, that is not the crime of someone committing their first crime. And as we saw, that was literally, he had already been arrested at least 14 times as an adult, let alone what he must have been doing in his youth. So I want to really run down this for you guys because repeat offenders are the ones that are driving violent crime. A small group of chronic offenders account for majority of the violent crimes in America. So again, a very small percentage are doing a disproportionate amount of crime. If you incarcerate all of those people, then we resolve a lot of the issue. And this is why I always say a hot take from someone on the right wing, hot take from a conservative, because a lot of people use this as, T to clock Joe Biden, call him racist. I understand why for election purposes. But that being said, the crime bill worked. The crime bill in the 90s worked. Everybody, now with the way they went about it, might have been a little sketchy, might have had a little, sprinkle of racism in there, but you only get your community over police when you're committing a disproportionate amount of crime. The crime bill, it worked. And I'm not going to get all into the crime bill today because that's old tea, that's stale. I'm going to talk about what's going on right now. We talk about right now, BJS, so the Bureau of Justice Studies, shows that between 2012 and 2017, 70% of violent offenders were rearrested within 5 years. That is 45, and it's compared to 45%. And 45% of that was for another violent crime. So to say that more clearly, 70% of released violent offenders were rearrested within 5 years. Within 5 years, they went, and more often than not, they went out and committed another crime, and majority of which was for a violent crime. Or 45%, close enough to majority, but y'all get the vibes. Now, that being said, the murders, we talk about 2023, city homicide data shows that 53% of suspects had prior felony convictions. They were repeat offenders. And then you got BJS saying again, 63.8% of violent offenders were rearrested within 8 years, 38.9% for violent crimes versus 22% for nonviolent. And then this was actually a Swedish study, but it very much applies to what's happening here in America too. 1% of the population was in Sweden was responsible for 63% of the violent crime convictions, driven by a high percentage of offenders. So 11 plus convictions. So people who were committing over 11 different convictions ended up being the predominant people that were doing the violent crimes. So that shows it's a global issue. Anywhere that is soft on crime and allows somebody to be back on the streets 11 times, you allow somebody to be on the streets 11 times, they're coming back for the 12th. And sometimes they do it on purpose. Some of these criminals, I don't think, people think I'm kidding when I say this. A lot of criminals will commit another crime because they want to go back to prison because it's 2 or 3 free meals and a hot shower. That's how desperate some of these people are. Now, why I also say, so I really want to get into the fact that when you talk about mass incarceration, again, everybody tries to make it seem like you're anti-black, but no, it's the most pro-black stance you can have. Being mass incarceration is being pro-black. And let's get into the tea. Why? So a small fraction of black Americans are the ones committing the crime. Something that a lot of people like to say, they like to be like, oh, the 13% is at it again. The 13% is at it again. That has nothing to do with me. The crime that you are seeing has nothing to do with me or a majority of black people. It is a tiny percent of black people that are committing these crimes. And I get it, because I know Matt Walsh tried to clock me yesterday and act like I don't acknowledge that black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime. Trust me, I know. Why do you think I live in a Caucasian neighborhood? I know. You have 13.6% of the population that is black, but we are why did I even say we? That's crazy. Them people, you people are committing 33% of non-fatal violent crimes and 51.3% of murder arrests per the FBI UCR data of 2019. That's crazy. So over half of the murder arrests are coming from black people. Embarrassing. Very embarrassing. But that being said, you have over 99% of black Americans who are not involved in the crime. And to be more specific, of the 2023, of the 375,359 total violent crime arrests, black individuals who were over 26% of those arrests equated to 0.5 to 1% of the black population. So again, you have 99% of black people who have nothing to do with this violent crime. So do you know what that means? So only 2 to 3 per 1,000 black individuals arrested annually for violent crime. So when we talk about this, there's so many different angles that we can take this whole situation. You have the fact that racism, a lot of black fatigue, it comes from the fact that people are frustrated with what this small percentage of the black population are doing. Because I talk about all the time, shout out to black women. Black women are out here outpacing when it comes to so many education metrics. You have so many strong, powerful black men that are leaders in their communities, leaders in their industries, and working so hard to not be grouped in with the stereotype. But what do we get stereotyped as? We get stereotypes as the criminals. Because a lot of these black criminals are repeat offenders, so it's a small population, but they're continuously doing the same things, continuously creating the same problems. A lot of the times, it feels like it's not even just a reoccurring issue, it's a repeated discussion about the same people. That's the gag of it. You know, when we talk about it, most of the victims and then most of the people that are being killed by black people, as we've talked about before, are black. Depending where you look, it's between 85 to 95% of black victims tend to be killed by a black perpetrator. So when we mass incarcerate those same black people that are committing the crimes, do you know what that means? That means we have fewer black people that are being murdered. We have safer neighborhoods. We have stabilized neighborhoods. We don't see opportunities fleeing out of the hood because the hood rats, the small group of hood rats that are wreaking havoc, they're gone. When you keep them in prison, you keep them in jail, the problem stays there. And we would reduce so many of the stereotypes that we have as black people if we would all be on board with heavier policies that keep these people in jail. And the gag is of it too is a lot of black people are already pro that. Because I remember even during 2020, I will never forget the Gallup study that showed that 80% of black people wanted the police in their neighborhoods the same amount, if not more. Because why? Majority of black people hate the crime that's happening from the small minority of YNs, the small minorities of hood rats that are committing all these crimes. Okay, you want to talk about protecting black youth? You want to talk about positive black representation? You want to talk about black role models? Do you know how we do that? By getting the criminals out of the hood. When you no longer have Peanut and them, you no longer have these gangbangers and YNs wreaking havoc in the neighborhood, flexing the money that they stole. You no longer have the young black youth that are looking up to them thinking that's the direction I'm supposed to go. That's the direction I need to go to get my bread up. You no longer have them looking at that. Why? Because when you take away the loud, radical, nefarious criminals within the black community, and this goes for all communities, obviously, but when you take away those people, you no longer have young black people looking up to them. That's what I'm saying. So mass incarceration, not only would you get rid of these repeat offenders, but you would have fewer murders, you would have fewer burglaries, you would have further assaults, you would have further all of this. You would have less stereotypes, or less stereotyping, I should say. You would solve so many issues within our country, specifically in the black community, simply if we all got on board with mass incarceration. I think that the second we do that, it's going to be better. There are even studies that show that exposure to criminal role models increases youth violence by 20 to 30%, and their removal via incarceration reduces youth arrests by 15 to 25%. And just imagine if we allowed that to continue. And like I said earlier, the crime bill, say what you want about it. Say what you want about the way that it was executed back in the 90s. Did crime lower? Did it work? If it worked, why not bring it back? Why not bring it back? Why not bring it back in a way that obviously is not just hyper fixated on a certain race, it's hyper fixated on criminals. So when we talk about, again, going back to Iryna Zaruska and the horror of what happened to her, we could have solved this issue not by segregating our country, not by removing all blacks from society. We could have saved Iryna Zaruska's life if we removed the criminals from society. And if a disproportionate amount of people that are incarcerated through mass incarceration and through cracking down on repeat offenders, if a large percentage of them is black, then so be it. The prisons should be proportionate to the crime, not proportionate to the demographic of the country. Let me say that again to make it clear. The prisons should be proportionate per crime data rather than proportionate to the demographic. If you have more black people in prison than compared to the demographic in the United States, then so be it. And I feel like if we did that, I feel very strongly about the fact that if we did have mass incarceration and we did go ahead and lock up this less than 1% of the black community that continues to create havoc and to continues to be repeat offenders, if we lock them up within 10 to 20 years, we would see that ripple effect start to go the other way. Because yes, you have the whole trauma of there's going to be some people, if you do mass incarceration, if you get rid of the repeat offenders, there's going to be some people without a father. Well, what kind of role model is that father now? If somebody is a repeat offender, do you think it's better to have a repeat offender in the home showing their kid how to be a criminal and get away with it and being in and out of jail? Is it better to have them there, or is it better to have a single mom who has to go and find another man that can actually raise her child with her properly, or just do it by herself? There's a Tyler Perry expression, I can do bad all by myself. And I know that's how a lot of these single mothers work and how they feel. So when it comes to, yes, you would have an issue of fatherlessness, but I would rather have, a slight spike in fatherlessness than have this increase in murders and this increase of young black people that are being desensitized to murder because their father is an 11-time criminal, 11+ time criminal like a lot of these people are. Do y'all get what I'm saying? Or am I being petty? You get what I'm saying, Ms. Rodriguez?
100%. We got to do something about this. Lawlessness is unacceptable. It's been going on for too long, and we just see what's happening in terms of when we are soft on crime. It's horrific. So many innocent people are getting caught in the fray, and criminals are emboldened. when there is weak leadership. Criminals are going to continue to be like, well, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to get a slap on the wrist and I'll be back out, no problem, be able to run amok. They're going to keep doing it. So we need something to be done about this. And I pray that justice prevails, especially in the case with the young woman who just lost her life to this senseless murder, graphic as it is. This individual needs to pay for that. And I pray there's true justice. I really do.
And again, it's not just Iryna. It's a whole lot. The list of women who have been murdered by repeat offenders and by illegal immigrants will actually blow your mind. I just learned about Dacara Thompson today. Many of you probably are just now learning about her story today. A lot of us know about Laken Riley, and the world is now looking at Iryna. And when people are getting mad at all of Black culture for it, as much as it frustrates me, I get it. I get it. But I really do feel like we would solve that issue. We would lessen stereotypes, and we would have an overall better society if we just went ahead and cracked down on the 1% of people in each demographic that are actually going out and committing these violent crimes over and over again. And a lot of the times those people are the leaders of their gang or their tribe of people that are committing violent crimes. So we would literally remove the issue at its root simply by all admitting that mass incarceration saves lives. And that's all I have to say about that. Cousins, thank you for tuning in for another one of my crash outs. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know, am I being too harsh, or do we need to bring back mass incarceration? And check out PragerU.com. Keep all of our educational videos free by sending a tax-deductible donation. And I will see you soon.